Greetings, my intellectual comrades. Recently, a friend challenged me. She asked why I quote Franz Fanon more frequently than Kwame Nkrumah. As questions go, it was a very intelligent one. After all, Nkrumah is the towering giant of African liberation politics. If Pan-Africanism had apostles, Nkrumah would certainly be among the chief disciples. Yet my answer was immediate. Without Fanon, Nkrumah cannot be properly understood. Indeed, reading Nkrumah before reading Fanon is like attempting advanced surgery before learning anatomy. One tells you what must be done. The other explains why it has not been done. Fanon remains, in my estimation, the greatest diagnostician of the African condition. Not the economic condition, not the political condition, the psychological condition. And herein lies the tragedy of Africa. For decades, Africans have mistaken symptoms for causes. We blame poverty, we blame corruption, we blame colonialism, we blame foreign powers, we blame bad leadership. Yet, none of this adequately explains our predicament. History is replete with nations that emerged from poverty. History is littered with people who overcame foreign domination. History contains countless examples of society rebuilding after catastrophe. The Germans did it. The Japanese did it. The Chinese did it. The Vietnamese did it. Why then does Africa continue to stumble? Fanon will answer with a single phrase: the colonized mind. The greatest achievement of colonialism was not territorial conquest. It was a psychological conquest. The colonizer succeeded in persuading the colonized that he was inferior. This inferiority complex became internalized. It became normalized. Eventually, it became invisible. The African learned to see himself through foreign eyes. He learned to distrust his own judgment. He learned to admire foreign cultures while ridiculing his own. He learned to seek validation from outsiders. And most tragically of all, he learned to doubt his own capacity. Observe the average African elite. The fellow possesses multiple degrees. He speaks flawless English. He travels extensively. Yet his intellectual universe begins and ends in Europe or America. His heroes are foreign. His intellectual references are foreign. His solutions are foreign. His aspirations are foreign. His confidence is foreign. Everything about him suggests independence except his mind. This is precisely the African that Fanon warned us about. A man who wears black skin but carries a colonial operating system. How do we explain societies sitting on trillions of dollars of natural wealth while borrowing money to build roads? How else do we explain governments that obey instructions from Brussels, Washington, and Paris more faithfully than they obey the wishes of their own citizens? How do we explain citizens that celebrate foreign religions while despising the civilizations of their ancestors? No psychiatrist is required to diagnose this condition. The symptoms are everywhere. One sees it at the airport, 1 seat in the parliament, 1 seat in churches, 1 seat in universities, 1 seat in the media, 1 seat in the mirror. Fanon understood that political liberation without psychological liberation produces a peculiar creation. A man who possesses a flag but lacks confidence. A man who has a national anthem but no self-belief. A man who has sovereignty on paper but dependency in practice. That is why Nkrumah's message remains incomprehensible to many Africans. When Nkrumah declared that Ghana's independence was meaningless unless linked to the liberation of Africa, he was speaking from a position of psychological freedom. He believed Africans were capable of industrialization, capable of innovation, capable of scientific achievement, capable of self-government, capable of greatness. Unfortunately, many Africans remain trapped in the psychological prison Fanon described. A prisoner cannot understand freedom, not because freedom is complicated, but because captivity has become normal. This explains why so many African governments seek approval from former colonial masters. It explains why foreign consultants are treated as prophets. It explains why foreign institutions are regarded as infallible. It explains why originality remains so rare. The colonized mind does not create, it imitates. It does not lead, it follows. It does not innovate, it copies. This is why Steve Biko warnings remain as relevant today as when he first uttered them. The most potent weapon in the hands of the oppressor is the mind of the oppressed. The battlefield has always been psychological. Control the mind and everything else follows naturally. Control the mind and entire population will defend their own oppression. Control the mind and victims will become enthusiastic participants in their own subjugation. Control the mind and continent rich beyond imagination can remain poor. This brings us back to Fanon. Fanon was not merely describing a problem, he was prescribing a cure. His objective was to restore dignity, to restore confidence, to restore psychological sovereignty, to persuade Africans that they were not inferior, that they were not accidents of history, that they were not footnotes in civilization, that they were fully human. That is why Fanon's words still resonate. Each generation must discover its mission, fulfill it or betray it. Our generation faces precisely that challenge. Will we continue to define ourselves through the eyes of others? Will we continue to seek validation from those who neither know us nor understand us? Will we continue to worship foreign approval while neglecting African possibilities? Or will we finally embrace Fanon's diagnosis and Nkrumah's prescription? For what is the relationship between the two men? Fanon diagnosed the disease. Nkrumah prescribed the treatment. Fanon liberated the mind. Nkrumah sought to liberate the continent. One prepared the ground, the other planted the seed. Between Fanon and Nkrumah lies the roadmap for African Renaissance. The question is whether Africans possess the courage to follow it. As always, the answer lies not in Washington, not in Brussels, not in Paris, not in London. The answer lies where it has always lain, in the minds of Africans themselves. Thank you very much. And my intellectual comrades, please help us, keep on help us to share our production, our blogs, and our video production, our podcast. We are really appreciated. And please keep on giving us your feedback. Thank you very much. Enjoy your day.